We can't operate without those guys. They do a really good job, and they obviously love the sport, and it shows because they really got their heart and soul into it.
You have an accident and they're there right in the instant, and I think that could be the difference of making it or not.
I don't think that any of us do this because we get a thrill out of it. I don't think it's the adrenaline rush as much as it's an opportunity to help other people.
I know that if I have an accident, those guys are going to be out there quickly. They're not going to be worried about anything except taking care of me.
You're talking about lives, and you're talking about the most important thing there is in this world, keeping people alive.
They are the unsung heroes of motor racing, an invaluable and irreplaceable group of dedicated professionals. They're the ones drivers never want to see, but would never want to do without.
Nobody really, pays much attention, but we really wouldn't be able to race if they weren't out there. It's the really critical part.
Perhaps the most critical. When the infrequent but inevitable mistake occurs, the safety crews spring into action. They are the first on the scene, the first to assess a driver's condition, and, if necessary, the first to administer emergency medical treatments. In America's IndyCar Racing League, the drivers have nothing but praise for them.
Oh, they're going to do a tremendous job. I mean, it's really difficult when you have cars out there that have just hit a wall and nobody's been brought back to speed. Often I've seen them jump in the middle of a track trying to help somebody when the cars are still running at 180 miles an hour. And you have people there that sacrifice themselves in really difficult circumstances. If there's fire, they have to get you out. I have no doubt whatsoever in my mind that the safety crews here at Indy are the best in the world.
Hey, Bob, what time's the driver's meeting? 9:30?
Dave Brown has been a member of the safety team at Indianapolis for more than 3 decades. He is now safety director, not only at Indianapolis, but for all the tracks on the Indy Racing League circuit. Though there's an army of medical and fire rescue crews at any racetrack, the heart and soul of the safety operation are a pair of pickup trucks and 15 highly trained crew members. Their responsibilities are many, but when a driver spins or hits the wall, the most crucial task is to provide the quickest possible rescue operation. Seconds can be absolutely critical. The safety team's goal is to reach the driver in a maximum of 20 seconds, though often a safety truck is on the scene even before the crashed car has rolled to a stop.
Once something happens on the track and we get a yellow, 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 or a triple yellow as we refer to that, the safety 1 or safety 2 are generally the first one out. Our thinking as we come up on the scene is, first of all, does it appear to be an entrapment? Does the driver appear to be okay?
Okay, track is yellow, hold your equipment, car 2 is on, and now it's hit the wall 1, yellow, yellow, yellow.
High debris everywhere.
Unforgiving concrete walls can exert a force of up to 100 Gs on a car at speed. For the driver, it's the equivalent of having 7.5 tons slammed against your feet, neck, and head.
The driver that's had an accident, even the best of cases, he's spaced out. I mean, he's just had a, very big impact. He's not sure where he's at.
Track is yellow, 1 car spinning, safety 1 dispatch now.
I think your body kind of goes into shock that something like that happens. And you start to panic a little.
It's the most difficult thing any driver can go through, and you wouldn't wish that type of experience on your worst enemy.
20 seconds or less is not much time to make an assessment of any damage to both car and driver, but it's all the time they have.
A lot of times we actually see the incident happen before our very eyes, so we have to react within seconds instead of the minutes it usually takes if you're acting in a street capacity as a paramedic. And that really has a lot to do with gathering yourself up and then having a lot of self-control when you get to the scene, when you've only had a few seconds to decide on what you're going to do.
The car's in the middle of the track. Pull out, pace car. You pick him up on the backstretch. Move out, pace car. You got him. You You got one car right behind you. You got a 20 car. Let the 20 go by him. Let the 20 go by. You pick up the one car. Car 20, send your car around the pace car.
Once an incident happens, they have to move fairly quickly, but they have to also be very safe. You can't be thinking too much about what you're doing. A lot of it's done on instinct and just knowing that the person that's with you is going to be covering your back.
One car into the wall. Ambulance 1, dispatch to the first car, and go high, go high, go high.
Amidst the chaos of tangled metal, the teamwork has to be carefully choreographed. Each crewman moves to an assigned position with a single purpose in mind.
34, driver's getting out of the car now.
To protect the driver from further injury.
Ambulance 1 to control. Out to the infield care center with one driver.
And just as importantly, to keep themselves from becoming part of the problem.
Everybody keep open lane.
The visibility into this area right here is very, very limited, as you can tell. You're blocked by the grandstands down in the lower side of the racetrack, and you kind of blend in with the grandstands on the outside of the racetrack. Speed is not reduced very much at all at this particular point where you come through the turn, still running in excess of 200 miles an hour. So this area right in here is a pretty dangerous point from our standpoint.
All accidents bring out a full course yellow flag, which means each competitor has to fall in line behind the pace car, and no passing is allowed. Yet each time the cars come round, there is a new potential for danger.
We have a person that's back that we call our pointer, and that individual person on each cruise only responsibility is to go as far upstream as he can get, look for a driver's eye, and point the driver to the low part of the track or to the high part of the track to keep him away from us.
But sometimes even the greatest precaution isn't enough.
The pack went through and a car came up trying to catch up to the pack very, very rapidly, and actually went between our truck and the wall, missing us by just inches. There was 5 of us working along the wall, and I suspect that we were as close as 4 or 5 feet to that car that was going 180 miles an hour.
Depending upon the angle of the impact, the outer hull can fold in around the driver, trapping him in the car.
We kind of go to work in 2 different ways. We've got medical personnel that are working with vitals to make sure that the driver is not in immediate danger.
First thing we do is to raise his visor up, because a lot of times they'll fall back down. Make sure they're conscious and breathing. Airways first and foremost. We make sure we don't move his head around much because of a neck injury possibly. You get the helmet off and then make sure his airway and he's moving oxygen, because we don't want his brain to swell. That's our first priority, is his airway.
There's other personnel that are checking out the leg area and the crash itself to see if there might be some entrapment. And then from that point, it's just a matter of moving our hands up and down through the crumpled area to see whether or not we've got freedom. At the same time, we're watching for fire with another group of personnel. If you come down to the extrication itself, you've got to be completely engulfed in the mechanics of what has gone on. You have to understand the construction of the automobile that you're working on, the chassis itself, and the mechanics of good, sound judgment as far as physics is concerned with bent metal.
Head injuries are probably the worst thing around here. And necks, you know, they can hurt your neck because you've got that helmet sitting on your head and it's loose, and well, when you go forward, you know, that's a lot of weight pulling on the neck.
It's a race against the clock. The longer the driver remains trapped in the car, the longer he goes without hospital care for any serious injury. When extracting the driver, there remains a delicate balance between how fast they can work and how safe they must be.
Very good chance of injuring yourself as well as injuring the driver further.
they've dealt with it before, and there's certain things you have to do. You don't need somebody to come along and grab you and start asking you how you're doing, and they see some pretty hellacious accidents. People that are in that position have had a lot of training, and they have a lot of history in it. They're well instructed, and they're always trying to make themselves better and better.
Spread oil dye, guys. Wide.
For a driver, each race is like the ride of their life. A crash comes as a crushing impact, followed by an out-of-control skid in which they decelerate from 290 kilometers an hour to naught in a matter of seconds, then realize that they cannot move their legs. They are held by the crumpled chassis of what was once a race car.
Car got sideways, another car T-boned that particular car right about the pelvic area from the driver's standpoint, and the car collapsed over the top of his pelvic area, and we needed to open up the car a little bit to get him free enough to move him out without injuring him further.
This instrument is called the Jaws of Life and is standard issue at most fire stations in the US. Developed in the early 70s, it represents an unusual twist on the way technology and racing have developed together. Unlike many improvements which have made their way from the racetrack to the passenger car, the Jaws of Life were created to ease extractions in accidents along America's highways.
I think there was some people out there that had some vision that said, well, if we can protect people that are in crashes on the highways, why wouldn't we transfer this to the raceways? So it's sort of a technology transfer that took place, and we tried to upgrade what happened on racetracks to be equal to, if not better than, what we had on the highways.
The 4,500 kilograms of pressure exerted by the Jaws can free a trapped driver in 5 to 10 minutes. But it's still a risky proposition. Unlike passenger cars, which allow room for both the occupant and the rescue crew to maneuver, the narrow nose cone of an Indy car has little room to spare.
If we would assume that a driver is sitting in this position, could possibly be a point where the car is in on top of his legs, we would simply open it up till we can get over his legs, come right down to the side of his legs, and then just start opening up the car. We'll go for a ways, release, see if we've got the driver free. If the driver's not free, we can go right back at it again.
In the worst event, a driver can be transported by ambulance to the field hospital and then flown by helicopter to the nearest emergency center.